Working Fans Podcast. Cool.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Coming down 3, 2.
Welcome back for another week of the Working Fans Podcast. This is AJ. I'm the former wrestler. We've got Dave, the ultimate fan, here with us. As we do every week, our producer Joe likes to make us sound good and makes us look way more professional than we actually are. As always, you can find us on Twitter, that's @FansWorking, Facebook, Working Fans Pod. We've got email where you can reach out to us and please contact us to let us know what you think of the podcast and for any ideas that you might have. That's workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. We're on Instagram where you can keep up with us at workingfanswrestling_pod. And then you can now listen to us on all major platforms, including Anchor.fm. We're on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Apple Podcasts, and you can actually check us out on YouTube. Now, it's important when you go onto the Apple Podcasts and YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a rating, let us know what you think so you can help us out and we can continue to do what we love and bring you guys in as fans.
This is Henry O. Godwin, WWE Superstar. You are listening to the Working Fans Podcast.
All right, everybody, it's the Working Fans Podcast with the man they call Dave. And today we have a special guest, former WCW star, former WWE star, Mark Canterbury, but you guys probably know him better as Henry Godwin. Mark, thank you for doing the show, man. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you reached out, and it worked out. I got all my stuff done today, so we'll just have a good time for 30 minutes.
Awesome, man. I'm really happy to hear that. You know, I was thinking about before I talked to you, one of the common questions we always throw out there is what got people into wrestling? What was their fandom? And a lot of the guys we talk to typically will say, your era, 90s wrestling. But since you were a part of that, I'm wondering, okay, what era were you a fan of? What got you into wrestling?
Oh, my God, the 70s and 80s. I was always a big Dusty fan, and how ironic for him to give me my first job in WCW, him and Cowboy Bill Watts. And even Tony Atlas, when I was 15, went to the Maryland Civic Center up there and seen Tony Atlas. So, yeah, I had a lot of big people I loved back then. Tommy Rich, Steamboat.
Oh, man. Yeah, you hit me with some classics. I was an 80s guy. I was born in 76, so I grew up on, I remember Backlund, but I grew up on probably the Hogan, Andre era up northeast, and then I saw Dusty and Flair, too. And I saw Bill Watts' Mid-South for a little bit. Lost my mind when I saw that. Their promotion was just incredible.
Yeah. And, my era was JYD, Ivan Klitsky.
Yeah.
All the Russians, Polish Hammer.
Yeah, man. Those are such, you can't get those era back, too, because it's nowadays there's so much information. I was telling someone, it was just so, I'll give you an example, the empty arena matches, especially when everything started with COVID. It was really hard for me to watch, just quiet wrestling at this point in my life because I realized, I'm so invested in a show. But when I was a kid, I didn't care. I just wanted to know who was going to win and who was going to lose,
Yeah.
were you trained by George South?
George South and Italian Stallion.
Okay, George has been on the show before. He is a super, super guy.
Oh, yeah, great guy. He's real close to my family for 30 years now.
That's awesome. George, my producer, he had ordered a book off of George, and it was a little bit late for whatever reason. And he messaged George. George immediately mailed it out personally to him that day, signed it, sent him some autograph stuff, some merchandise, some of him, some of Ricky Steve, just a bunch of stuff, total class act,
That's George. He gave me the book a couple years ago about a year and a half ago in Clayton, North Carolina. He gave me a book and signed it, and then he opened it to the picture of me and him in there. So George has got a lot of knowledge up there in that noggin.
Oh, yeah. Super passionate, too. He's probably the most passionate guy I ever had on the show.
Yeah.
It wasn't long after you were trained, you started working with Dennis Knight, right? As Tech Slash and Shanghai Pierce?
Yeah. Sal and George started taking me down to, be an extra at WCW. And one night, you remember when Watts started?
Yes.
Okay, well, I had like my first match. His first match was me on TV.
Okay.
And that's when Cowboy and Dusty were, running the show down there. And I had rode down there with my gear and what I was wearing. And that night, after that, Arn come up and said, they want you to go on the road and work with Eric Watts this week in Texas. How about shit, man? I was like, people were Arn, Anderson was giving me clothes and Stal and George, and here I was in the back seat with Barbarian and Harley Race driving and Hercules Hernandez in the front seat.
Amazing.
I was scared to death, but they were good to me, man. All three of them were good guys and great to me. Barbarian, I love him. I stayed with him at his house with his family back in the WCW days, and just an awesome group.
I didn't have this question down, but I got to say it when you mentioned that. One thing about, and I'm not knocking this era, it's a totally different era, and I'm sure there's a lot of guys that can handle themselves. But boy, when you talk about, like, you hear the pros who talk about the toughest people in the era, it's like Barbarian, Haku, it's like a lot of guys from your era are just these big, strong dudes.
That's two I were going to name for sure.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny. I saw pictures from you from the Survivor Series weekend and with the Bone Street crew, and I'm like, oh my God, you, Dennis, Taker, Godfather, Savio Vega. I'm like, these are not guys you would want to cross.
Yeah, Taker said, we all said that night was going to be the BSK night. So it was, and we made up for 20 years. Good Lord.
I'll tell you what, let me get a little in order here, because there's something I want to ask you. I remember this as a kid watching your matches, the Tex Slashinger and Shanghai Pierce, and I can't remember if it was you or Dennis, but at center stage, it didn't seem like it was immediately, but at some point, when one of you guys would just, every move you would do, every strike you would do, the crowd at center stage would just go, ooh, ah, ooh, ah. Do you remember this?
Oh, yeah, I do, yeah. And they would say Texas. It was always at center stage.
Yeah.
A lot where it happened, our TV tapings.
Is it just random, or do you know how that happened?
No, this group of guys started messing with us, and then they started picking on Tex, and then they just started that ooh and ah all the time. So it stuck down there for a while.
Yeah. It was definitely interesting, though. As a viewer, as a kid, maybe a teenager, it brought more attention to you, though. When I was like, I kind of want these guys to do well now, At first you're just heels, and you're on the lower card. I'm like, I hope they give these guys, something. I'm excited for them now.
Yeah, WCW was a good stepping stone and learning experience, but yeah, when I left there and went up to WWF at the time, it was totally different. I mean, it was a lot better up there.
Yeah, you were handled really good. That was one thing I remembered. It was you came in and you had, the hog farmer kind of gimmick thing, but it was they did a good job with you. I mean, you had that hog pen match with Triple H, which is still talked about, I think, to this day by a lot of fans. Yeah, so two things. Why you ended up going up there by yourself for a little while at first. Was your contract up first, or were they just interested at you at first? How did that all come about? And yeah, tell us about your stay there first as a singles competitor.
All right, on the first part, yeah, I went up there. We found out we were getting let go, so I talked to Kevin and Harley Race, Kevin Nash,
yep.
And they had talked to the office up there for us, and they said they wanted Tex to get his issues straightened out, and that's why I went up first. His personal stuff.
Gotcha.
That's who set me up there was Kevin Nash and Harley Race. I flew up there, met with in Vince's little secret office, me, him, and J.J. Dillon, and we just talked for 2 hours, and then he come up with the Henry Godwin gimmick. He asked me what I did, and I said, well, I did a little bit of everything. He really liked the farming, and when I mentioned the hogs and slop, when I said slop and the hogs, it was like a light bulb went off in Vince's head. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was so over. I still remember you slopping Sonny. I actually, it's funny talking about the hog pin match too. That was the day. It was Davey Boy or Owen, right? He let all the some of the animals into Vince's office.
I don't know. I don't know what happened. I think when they were unloading them, they had got sort of wild. I wasn't there for that.
Okay.
pen all day long, and you know what they were doing. All day long. So it was pretty nasty stuff. Me and Hunter was talking about it at Survivor Series. The cut in his back and the 15 stitches, and we were afraid he was going to get stabbed, because all that. We didn't know his back was cut, and then he was in all that stuff. And then at the end, he got hit in the head with a big cup of ice and Coke, and yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, it was a wild match. That's one that sticks out still. You end up working with Hillbilly Jim for a little while, too. How was that?
That was awesome. Yeah, Hillbilly come in as special guest referee that night. And then, Tex come up right after that, and they put us together and brought Hillbilly in, and it was like Curly Moe and Larry having a good time out there.
One other thing I wanted to ask you was working with Triple H early in his career. Did you have an idea like this guy was going to be something special?
Yeah, I did, because, it was funny. When we met with Vince that day to go over the hog pen match, and I think all the boys thought it was going to be a ha-ha match, just silly stuff. But me and Hunter took it seriously, and to get a compliment like we got when we got back to the office, back in the locker room, and Vince was standing there, and he goes, "I cannot believe y'all pulled that off. That was a hell of a match." And of course, that year we got nominated at the Slammies for the best match of the year.
Yeah, that was an awesome match. And it's funny because when you said ha-ha match, I remember, I've always been a big fan of pro wrestling, but I remember at that time as a fan, like, I wasn't really into a lot of the gimmick stuff. And there was a ton of gimmicks back then. And maybe I didn't go into that match with the best attitude, but man, you guys delivered. I was like, whoa, shit, what a match. You beat the hell out of each other.
We did. The stuff we were doing, like I took the slop drop and he held the railing, I hit the concrete floor, and just the next morning I was beat to a frazzle, and he was too. But we didn't, I didn't want people to be laughing at our match. I wanted people to say, "Oh shit," or "Oh my God," I wanted that. I didn't want, us dancing around and ha ha ha. This is serious stuff. So we set the whole match up, and Hunter was a big part of it, and he even said the other night, he said, "That's one of my favorite matches to this day," and I said, "It is mine."
Now, how fun was it to eventually reunite with Dennis then and start doing the Godwins together?
It was refreshing. Because, me and him been together since 92, so we're going on almost 30 years, and we've never had a crossword with each other. And Arn and like the Nasty Boys, and they would say, and some of the other boys would say, "You guys are rare. You're always together." I was telling somebody the other day that when I was seeing Mick Foley down there, me and Tex went to Dewey's one-year birthday party at Cactus's house. And Rick Rude was there, and Van Hammer.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So it was like, me and Tex, we always went places together. We were, and we were into our work. We wanted to succeed. But it was a great time with Tex.
And then I had forgotten this in my research, but for a little while you were paired up with Uncle Cletus, Tony Anthony.
Oh, yeah. There towards the end, they had brought Uncle Cletus in, Dirty White Boy,
yeah,
and he was with us for a little while, and that was fun,
Yeah, I was thinking, like, you guys must definitely had some fun on the road. It seems like, like that would be some good times. At what point did you started hanging out with, Undertaker and these guys and becoming, like, the BSK? When did that happen?
Well, to be honest, when I first started up there, I didn't really know anybody. I knew Hunter, but who took me right under their wing real quick was Jeff Jarrett.
Oh.
So I rode with Jeff for a while, and then Road Dogg, us three rode together for a while, and then I started riding with Taker and Paul Bear, and, it was just, that's when the BSK started, and Yokozuna, of course, he started it, and had us all hats made, and it was a good brotherhood.
Yeah, I imagine it was probably very helpful given the schedule on the road you guys probably worked, too, that back then, to have those kind of people around you.
Yeah, of course, with Taker and Yoko leading the pack, and our thing was, we just wanted to have fun and be together and try to help each other's careers out. We all give each other advice. And there was no big war war with the clique or anybody else. You know, we just wanted to help each other out, and the BSK, you know, tried to take care of their guys, and the clique took care of their guys, but we all got along.
Yeah. I mean, that's great, right? At the end of the day, too, like, I mean, I think people forget about that. Like, you're all working together. So, for the most part, you should try to get along, right? I mean, you're giving each other your bodies.
Right. It was just like the extra stuff we, you know, just sort of hung out with our group a lot. It wasn't like intentionally. It was just, you know, that's the way it was, I guess.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, man. That's just the way the world is. People make a big deal out of things, but you gravitate to people you get along with, ultimately, at the end of the day, you know? And that makes sense.
Yeah.
You had left for a neck injury, but I didn't realize you had come back for a while in 2007?
Yeah, I come back at the end of 2006 and 2007, but I wasn't in good shape. I had lost my son and my dad like 2 months apart, and, you know, I broke my neck, and I had spinal fusion, and it just wasn't a good time for me.
Yeah, it's I can't even imagine having to go through that, man. Obviously, okay, so after that, you know, that was your final run for a while. What have you been up to since then?
I've been doing a lot of the Legend shows. Ken out of New Jersey, he's a promoter up there. I do a lot of stuff with him. I was doing some shows down in Clayton, North Carolina with Lewis Moore, and got to work with, you know, I worked with some guys. And matter of fact, the last time I was down there, Billy Gunn was there.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy Dreamer, Shane Douglas, Barbarian, me. So we had a good time. We took a big picture. And I still like seeing the boys, you know.
Billy Gunn, I met and saw him at a signing a couple years ago. The guy seems like he's timeless. Like he's just in tremendous shape.
Yeah, he is.
And deceptively big. You shake his hand, like he's got giant paws.
He was a real cowboy. He used to ride the bronc. He used to bronc bust.
Oh my God. He's another one. I saw him I see him and his sons wrestling on Dark, and yeah, he's just tremendous. The shape he keeps in, like, big fan of that guy. Oh yeah, how was getting together with the boys back for Survivor Series? How was that whole feeling being back there and seeing Undertaker and everything?
It was awesome because it had been 20 years since the whole BSK that, you know, still alive had got together. So, like I was saying before, you know, we sort of planned Saturday night was going to be our night, and we were staying there at the Hyatt at the airport in Orlando, and then Taker came over about 10:30, 10 o'clock, and, it got ugly.
That's great.
But we made up for it, and we had a great time, and it was just an honor to be, you know, to know that he wanted us there for his farewell, so... Yeah, when Bruce Pritchard called and give me what was up, I was like, hell yeah, I'd take my last breath to do this with you guys. That's what I told him.
That's awesome, man. It's great having, you know, personally, like I have some friends now that I've had for like 20, 25 years. So I know what that's like, man. To have friends for that long, especially guys you don't see all the time, just to pick up like that again, that's just great.
Yeah. It was a great homecoming, and we're going to start doing some more once. Hopefully we get back to normal a little bit in this damn country, so we can start doing some legend shows together. We want to do a BSK signing.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, that'd be good. I'm going to have to try to reach out to Dennis Knight, too. I'd love to get him and you on the show sometime. Get a little reunion together. Because,
yeah, we could do that one night.
Man, I think, that'd be great for the fans. I mean, you're just awesome guys. And I know people who listen to my podcast, they're constantly asking about wrestlers from eras like, you know, the 90s. And you guys come up a lot. So,
yeah.
Is there anything you want to promote, man? Anything you got going on? You want to, like, let people know what's up?
Oh, just got out of hunting season, got a bunch of hogs, still raising pigs, you know, just living in the mountains in West Virginia, enjoying it.
Man, I love that. You are a straightforward, honest guy, and I'm a little jealous. I own a business delivering bread, and it's constantly go, go, go.
I'm up in age, but I still get out here and shovel shit and do all the hard stuff. I've been doing that today, so that's it's not really just a gimmick. It's my life.
Yeah, you're living the gimmick.
Yeah, but I didn't know if you'd seen where my big stud Henry, the black hog, got painted BSK on the side.
That's awesome.
I didn't know if you got to see it or not.
Oh, man, that's awesome. I did it. I'm going to check that out. That's great. All right, Henry, I'm going to let you go. Is anything else you want to say to the fans?
Just 6K may be on the horizon here pretty soon. So, and I want to thank you, Dave, and keep in touch. I'll get a hold of Dennis, and we'll do one together.
That would be amazing and an honor, sir. Thank you so much for doing this. We'll definitely be in touch. You have a great night.
Well, we appreciate it. I do, because you're a tool for us. You know, you keep things going, keep it fresh, and keep it exciting. We got some memories, and we can talk about that all. I can write a book on that.
It's funny. George South said the same thing to me, man. He said afterwards, I just thanked him because George is just so, gracious and everything, and he's so passionate. And with George, though, it's like, I joke with him all the time because, throw the format out the window. He's just going to go off on a subject I throw for him, and he's going to keep talking. But I love it, though. It's so, he's so infectious,
Yeah.
But he said...
stay in touch, man. I appreciate you.
All right, yeah, no problem, Mark. Hey, have a great night. And again, thank you for doing this, man. I'll talk to you later. All right, everybody, it's the Working Fans Podcast. It's the man they call Dave. And I'm here with AJ Strangebrew, and we're at it again. The 531. We're running the show. Joe, you fucked up. So, AJ, we're talking about the top 5 HBK matches of all time. Before we get started, I do want to say something. Last week, we did the top 5 Bret Hart matches, and Randy Osga, I misquoted him on one. Now, as you remember, Bret versus Austin won the Survivor Series, the WrestleMania 13 match, all right? And he had Bret and Austin written down. But he actually had Bret and Austin from Survivor Series written down. So, it didn't make a difference, but I just thought it should be duly noted. So,
first of all, the fact that you misquoted my number one fan.
Oh, yes.
I'm a little annoyed.
And he wanted to know what your favorite match was.
We're going to talk about that. And if you want that information, Randy, you got to tune in for the live show.
The live show, which will probably air the day before this actually airs. So we'll...
Yeah, so Randy, if you're seeing this, you already know the answer.
Yes. All right, so...
And I'll give you a hint. It's not somebody's mother.
So...
Or maybe it is.
So, I don't know, maybe kick things off with Randy. Who do you got there for your list here?
I've got Randy's list, and I will not misquote him.
My man.
We've got Shawn versus Razor from WrestleMania 10, the ladder match.
Yes.
Yes. We also have Shawn versus Triple H, unsanctioned 2002 SummerSlam. We've got versus The Undertaker, 97 Hell in a Cell. Diesel going back to 1996, 24 years ago, in your house.
Better
Not
friends.
Your house particularly, yes. Better friends, or better friends, better enemies, something like that. Yes.
Right? He was good at that. Not everybody had that one. So.
And then one of my favorites, Jericho, 2008, the No Mercy ladder match.
Yes, those were two good ones he had. Yeah,
I actually think that ladder match is better than Razor and Shawn. But I might be in the minority for that one.
I didn't. Spoiler: I didn't list either one on my list, but I do agree with you. I do think that one is better.
I just think you have two better actual wrestlers. It's nothing against Scott Hall.
Mm-hmm.
I just think the work that Jericho was able to do at that time compared to now is just a different level.
Jericho's best run, and Shawn was still at it. Yeah. And that Better Friends, Better Enemy match, I believe that's the one where they ripped off Mad Dog Vachon's leg, too.
It is.
Yes. So,
yeah.
Thanks for the memories. I'll give a list here. I got Jesse from New Hampshire this week. And he's got the Rockers versus the Hart Foundation from the October 30th, 1990 Saturday night's main event. I forgot to check which one that is. That might be where the Rockers... I don't think that's the one where they won the tag belts because I don't think that ever make air.
That wasn't televised.
So he's got some deep cuts here. HBK versus Randy Savage, UK Rampage 92. I don't think a lot of people are going to have that, so good on him.
That was one of the first times that you actually saw what Shawn Michaels as a singles could really do. Of course, he did. He was in there with one of the all-time greats with Randy Savage, who was really able to put together a hell of a match, I'm sure.
Yeah, so this one might be a minority one, but I think you'll like this one. It's Shawn versus Double J at In Your House 2.
That's definitely a good one.
Triple H versus HBK, Armageddon 02. I believe this was I don't want to know if they called it 3 stages of hell match. I think they started off with a regular match, and then it might go to a ladder or a cage. But it was, those were the 3 matches. And then he has, which actually technically would be an extra one, but we're just going to have him tied, both Mania matches with Taker.
Wow.
So
that's
25 and 26.
Wow, you really brought it on that one.
That Taker's matches are going to be a theme here, I believe.
Yeah, well, a lot of people on my list went back and forth between the two. Some like the retirement match, some like the 25.
Yeah, I'm like Hell in a Cell. I found out.
Exactly. I've got one half of the Brothers of Destruction combo. I've got Jake St. John here. We've got Taker and Hell in a Cell. Mm-hmm. We've got Taker at Mania. I'm not sure which Mania he means in that one. Knowing Jake, he might just be covering all of Taker versus Shawn's matches.
I actually had a peek at his list, so continue reading. I got an idea here.
We do have the Taker retirement match,
which is the following Mania. So,
that could be the way that he was going with.
Yes.
And
so I'm gonna give it both Mania matches credit for that one.
Yes. So unlike the others who couldn't decide between the two, Jake just picked both.
Yeah, he did.
Yes. Here's an interesting one. He picked the Shawn Michaels Bret Hart Screwjob match, Montreal Screwjob match. Not really sure that's Shawn's best match. Might be his best submission match. Bret tapped quickly.
Joe put that down last week, I think, for historical significance. Maybe Jake was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe just because he knew the danger that Shawn was actually in going into a match and having to pull something like that. You know what I mean?
That might have been
it. And then we've got Ric Flair retirement match.
All right.
Which is not one that shows up on much. You talk about historical significance. I got to believe that that's... And they did tell an amazing story in there. Obviously, it's not Ric Flair's greatest physical match of all time, but you talk about an emotional match. Incredible.
So Jake technically, he did have Mania 25 and 26. And Jesse had Mania 25 as his number 5. He had him tied for Mania 26. Yeah. He said both Manias. Scott has HBK versus Taker, both Manias, and Hell in a Cell. So Scott is telling me that he obviously considers Undertaker's greatest rivalry. So that's his top 3 right there. Yeah. And then Razor Ramon at Mania 10 in the ladder match. And then number 5, he also had Flair in the Mania match position. So
wow.
I can't wait to see what you got next, man, because I have a feeling this Undertaker HBK thing is going to make some list here.
Well, I'm not going to keep the brothers together. I'm going to try and keep them separated. So I'm going to throw a little Mike Flynn in between.
All right.
We've got Taker from Mania 25.
Yep.
He's got Triple H and Chris Benoit.
Oh, yeah.
In the 3-way dance from WrestleMania 20. Razor at WrestleMania 10, the ladder match. Mm-hmm. Kurt Angle from WrestleMania 21.
Awesome match.
And then Shawn versus Taker at Bad Blood.
Which is the Hell in a Cell match.
Yes.
I did some research on it. So it's funny how they worded some of this stuff. Some of the people worded it differently, but yeah.
Well, I think what's happened over time is because we now have the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view.
Right.
That people have a tendency of forgetting that there was no Hell in the Cell pay-per-view back then. That it actually was a separate pay-per-view. Right. And that's
sidebar, by the way. One thing I don't like WWE does is these I don't want to call them seasonal, but yeah, these like theme pay-per-views. Like, I want to have a Hell in a Cell because we call for a Hell in a Cell. Like, we just watched Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens had a great interaction the other night, and I'm like, this could be a good feud. I'm liking this. And we're immediately jumping to a tables, ladders, and chairs match because it's December. And I'm just not a fan of that.
Believe it or not, that's how I actually feel about the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view. This is we're taping this the day after NXT's Hell in the Cell.
Or War Games, you mean?
Sorry, War Games.
But yeah, I know what you mean, yeah.
So we're doing this after NXT's War Games, and to me, War Games is something that should be one thing on a match, on a card, not a whole specialty where you have multiple versions of it.
Agreed.
If the women want to go to war, it should be over a dispute that they're having. It shouldn't be the theme for a pay-per-view.
I agree. All right, I'm going to go Joe's brother next. Matt sent us a list. He's got Taker at Hell in a Cell. He's got the Mania 10 ladder match. He's got the return of HBK at SummerSlam versus Triple H, which was 2002.
Yep.
Some of that list already. And then he's got Mania 26, Taker versus HBK's career. So,
yeah. All good matches once again. The thing that we're going to run into with Shawn is similar to what we ran into Brett, and maybe even more so, was that his matches, there's not really a lot of bad Shawn matches. There's not really anything that people pick and put on their list, basically, is going to be pretty solid.
What I'm running into, too, is almost like it's not quite diluted, but unlike, much like Flair Steamboat, we're seeing a lot of HBK Taker matches that are like different ones that are coming in here. Yeah, although exactly. It's not getting as diluted because everybody is saying, a lot of people are saying, I take both.
Yeah, some people just aren't willing to choose.
No.
All right, so I've got the other brother now.
Yes.
Which I think is actually what his parents call him. Zach St. John.
Yes.
We've got Taker from Hell in a Cell, Bad Blood, if you will.
Yep.
That's Taker 25.
Yep.
Jericho at Mania. Razor from SummerSlam 95, not the ladder match, but the actual SummerSlam match, which is a good call because I believe it's actually better than the ladder match when they.
Oh yeah.
And then Angle at Vengeance 05.
Oh, okay. So not even the Mania match. I forgot about the Vengeance one. Yeah.
Yeah, so good picks by the other brother.
Yes. Speaking of the other brother, I got Joe. Producer Joe, who sent in HBK versus Razor. Ooh, didn't really specify. I'm going to give it to the Mania 10 ladder match, though. HBK versus Flair. That is Mania 25. It looks like I have written down here. HBK versus... Oh, hold on a second. I want to make sure. I don't want to mess up Joe here. Let's...
Yeah, don't pull a Randy Oscar, Dave.
Yeah. Michaels versus... Okay, wait a minute. Okay, so, all right. He's got Michaels versus Ramon, WrestleMania 10. And then we have HBK versus Flair, 24. Yep. Michaels versus Taker, Hell in a Cell. And then HBK versus Brett, 97. That's the ladder. That's the Survivor Series screw job. And then he's got Michaels versus Taker, WrestleMania 26. All right.
He's really sticking by that screw job.
He believes in it.
Yes. That's incredible.
Is this your list?
It's time for the whole effing show.
All right.
So, first of all, one of my favorite matches from Shawn Michaels, and I know that we can go with historical significance, we can go with just great catch-can matches. One of my favorite matches is actually Shawn Michaels versus Marty Jannetty for the Intercontinental title. Just because I grew up on the Midnight Rockers and then the Rockers, so to see them finally break up and actually go for the Intercontinental title and to see Marty Jannetty actually pull off the win there, I think it was actually a hell of a match and a good job putting over Marty by Shawn. So,
and Marty's went on to great things and arguably has had a more successful life and career.
Yeah, so, and all because of Shawn putting him over there.
Or something happened. I don't know.
Something like that. I am going to go with Shawn versus Jericho next from the No Mercy.
Yep.
That is one of my favorite matches. I think that both of them just brought it. Shawn versus Taker, Hell in a Cell, like everybody else in 97 from the Bad Blood pay-per-view. To me, that is, I know it's where Shawn hurts his back also. So, unfortunately, it's going to be the root of some of the tail end.
Actually, technically, they ended up having a coffin match where he hurt his back.
The coffin match, my bad.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Because that backdrop.
Yeah, the backdrop on the coffin, which is not on my list.
No. That's all right. Didn't make my list either.
Yeah, I am going to go with, I like the one before the retirement match. I actually think that WrestleMania 25 is actually the better of the two.
Okay.
And unlike other people who couldn't choose between the two, I'm actually going to choose WrestleMania 25 and keep the other one off the list.
All right.
Flair versus Michaels, the retirement match, is on my list because, like we talked about before, historical significance and sadness. And that was 4, right?
I believe so.
And my number 5 one is actually Shawn versus Jericho at WrestleMania.
Okay. You might have swayed some decision-making at the end here a little bit with one of your votes. We'll get to that. I'm going to read my 5 first. All right, just because I wanted it on the list, HBK versus Mankind, Mind Games in Your House. Foley says this is one of his better matches in his career.
It also showed what Mick Foley could do, to be honest with you.
Yes. There was a hot Philadelphia crowd. Really good show. Triple H at SummerSlam 2002. I did this for the emotion. Shawn coming back after 4 years. We never thought he was going to wrestle again. Not only does he come back, he pulls off the friggin' MVP performance. I believe Arn Anderson told him before he goes out there, hey man, do the best you can. You got this. It's not quite like riding a bicycle, but you're going to do this. He comes to the back and Arn goes, well, I guess for you it's like riding a bicycle. Never mind.
Shawn Michaels coming back like that, I think, unfortunately for Steve Austin, is what made all of us continue for years to ask Steve Austin, are you sure you're not coming back?
Actually, I'll skip to the end. I got a couple more of big, but I actually, just because from personal preference, I put down Austin at WrestleMania 14 only because we were there live.
We were there live. Yeah.
The atmosphere of that crowd is something I'm never going to forget as far as a wrestling show we went to.
It was incredible. It was.
And out of the Taker matches, I put Hell in a Cell in there. I decided not to go to Mania because the first ever Hell in a Cell doesn't get any better than that. They had the most awesome match, and it was also the debut of Kane. Too much good stuff going on in there.
It's also what made people, to this day, still want to see Hell in a Cell.
Agreed.
What put it on the map, so.
Agreed. And then Kurt Angle at Mania 21. So that was my list. Dynamite match there. Now, when I did some of the totals for this, it was apparent that the top 3 vote getters were all Shawn versus The Undertaker. So rather than do that, I am going to say Hell in a Cell, which got the majority of the votes. We'll get an automatic buy. We'll do that.
Yeah, unfortunately, the WrestleMania matches took away from each other.
They did. I'm going to say we include one of them. So there'll be 2. Just because how important it was to people. And we'll go with 25. You did sway that vote because it was actually tied.
I thought you were talking about Marty Jannetty.
No, that's not making that list at all. And then we'll argue this third spot, or maybe we'll agree. HBK and Razor WrestleMania 10 ladder match. So I think we're going to agree on this. Or HBK versus Triple H SummerSlam 2002. I'm voting for Triple H HBK SummerSlam 2002.
I am too. I know a lot of people like the ladder match for sentimental reasons. Mm-hmm. But I think that if you look back at it, it doesn't hold up as much as the SummerSlam 02.
And it was this big return match, the emotion of it all. In fact, now that we got our final 3, what's kind of interesting is I'm going to say first one to go. I don't know if I'm because we don't have to. I can kick off one of these Taker matches. And I don't know. I'm kind of interested. What do you go with? Do you want to? Who do you want to release? Maybe you want to get rid of Triple H.
I prefer keeping the Hell in the Cell match.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. Like I said, that obviously was on my list, so I think it's one of his best matches. The year before the retirement. Yeah. But as time goes on, that Hell in the Cell match was a milestone and something that has lasted. I mean, it's 23 years later, and we're still talking about it like it was yesterday. Whereas, how often do we talk about the Shawn retirement matches?
Agreed. And this was the year before, which set up the great story, obviously. But yeah, I have to agree. At the end of the day, that Hell in a Cell was something special. I was going to go if you really prefer the maybe straight up wrestling matches. Maybe we do most times. However, this is special because it was the first of its kind, and these guys set the tone of it.
It was, and as you know, I'm usually a wrestling purist, and I usually prefer the straight up wrestling matches. However, they combined a fight, wrestling, and everything that you love about a good Hell in the Cell, and they put it together in the first one. How many times do you see a first match where it's put together this well?
Before. You don't. I want to ask you this before we declare the winner here, because I think I know where we're going to go. Are these not counting Bret Hart? Look, HBK and Bret Hart, a lot of personal things going, but I don't consider HBK and Bret's chemistry. I thought it was good, but I thought they had better matches with other people.
I think all you really have to think about to figure out how well they might have worked together was the Iron Man match is one hell of a match between Bret and Shawn, and it made nobody's list.
Right, exactly. I think at the end of the day, HBK's greatest rivalries are Taker and Triple H.
And one of the reasons why is because then Shawn Michaels. Shawn and Flair are probably the 2 best at getting thrown around the ring and then coming back and being able to really make it believable.
So, 2 questions. There's the 5-3-1. We're going to declare a winner on the greatest match of Shawn's career. But a sidebar, who's his greatest rival, and is it different?
I think his greatest rival, actually, and you could go Triple H on it. You really could.
Yeah.
But I think his greatest rival has to be, to me, The Undertaker.
Okay. And then we're going to go...
I mean, all you have to do is actually look at the amount of matches that are on these lists.
Yeah.
And how many of them are taking up with The Undertaker. Like we said before, as much as he didn't behind the scenes get along with Bret Hart, none of his matches with Bret Hart made the list other than the screw job.
Right, which was a couple people.
Which obviously was not even a good match.
No, it was fine. It wasn't, but right, you're right. It's more remembered for the ending, you know? Yeah, I got to go then. I think we're going to go with Hell in a Cell. The people wanted it. It made everybody's list pretty much. And
that's not to take anything away from Shawn's comeback match. That comeback match, like Iron said, proved that Shawn could take off whatever time he wants. I have no doubt Shawn could come back now and still have a great match.
Yeah, I believe that.
He's one of the few people that I believe could take the amount of time off that he took and freaking...
And you know what's funny? We might get some... Go ahead.
Look at Saudi Arabia. Look what he did in Saudi Arabia.
Right. Some people are going to give us some heat for that. Some people are going to give it and say, oh, that match wasn't any good, blah, blah. Yes, and there were some mistakes, and Shawn... Honestly, Shawn was the best part of that match, folks. And he was dealing with what he could deal with at that time. His partner got injured, unfortunately. You know, Kane, everybody got injured around him. He was doing what he could.
Exactly. That's he was the only thing that actually held that match even remotely together.
And he was the least active out of all of them.
Yeah. Not even close.
Yeah. So he's a hell of a performer. For my money, as much as I'm a Bret Hart fan, and I like some of Bret's matches a little bit. I think they're grittier. However, when it comes to consistency, when it comes to the best all-around performer all the time, Flair's up there, but I just kind of go with HBK.
All you need to know is that Ric Flair considers Shawn Michaels the greatest worker of all time.
Yeah.
When somebody who everybody considers to be the greatest worker of all time considers the other person to be the greatest worker of all time, that's telling you something.
That's all you need to know. All right, folks. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Working Fans Podcast. This is Dave. This is AJ. We're out.
All right, so that wraps us up for this week. Thank you again for listening to the Working Fans Podcast. So as always, you can find us on Twitter at FansWorking. Our Facebook page is Working Fans Wrestling Pod. We have email where you can reach out to us and let us know what you think also. That's workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, workingfanswrestling_pod. And then as always, please continue to listen to us on Anchor.fm, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, all your major platforms. If you're following us on Apple Podcasts, which we are also on now, and YouTube, please make sure you subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. It helps us bring you these podcasts where we get to talk to you and talk with you every week.